I, female, 32, have been married to my husband Dave, male, 34, for 8 years. We've always had an honest and open relationship, or so I thought. Things began to change a month ago. Dave became distant, and I noticed that he was spending an alarming amount of time in our guest bedroom. It was weird, because we never really used that room. When I asked him what he was up to, he would give vague responses or say he was just sorting through some old things. One day I came home early and found the guest bedroom door locked. I knocked and asked Dave what was going on. He told me he was working on a surprise for me and not to enter. Now, our anniversary was around the corner, so I thought, okay, maybe he's planning something sweet. But days turned into weeks, and Dave would still spend hours locked in there, even late into the night. I tried to talk to him, but he insisted everything was okay. My intuition was screaming that something wasn't right. One night, I couldn't sleep. The curiosity was killing me. I decided I needed to see what was going on in that room. I quietly grabbed the spare key, and as I opened the door, I couldn't believe my eyes. There was a man in there I'd never seen before, looking very disheveled and scared. Dave, who was also in the room, looked like he'd seen a ghost when he saw me. He rushed to me, trying to explain that the man was an old friend who had gotten into trouble and needed a place to hide. I was horrified. My heart was pounding, and I didn't know if we were in danger. Without thinking, I grabbed my phone and called the police. Dave begged me not to, but I couldn't think straight. The police arrived, and it turned out the man was a fugitive wanted for a non-violent crime. They took him into custody. Dave was in tears, apologizing, saying he was trying to help an old friend who he thought was wrongfully accused. I'm now torn. Part of me feels like I should have listened to Dave before calling the police. But another part of me is so shaken that my husband would keep such a huge secret and bring a fugitive into our home. Update 1. It's been a couple of weeks since my original post, and a lot has happened. I never expected so many responses, and after reading them all, I knew I owed you an update. After the night when the police took Dave's friend into custody, I was left in a state of shock. I couldn't believe that the man I loved and trusted would do something like this. Our home felt tainted. I moved to my sister's house for some time to gather my thoughts. Dave tried to call me multiple times, but I didn't pick up. I was hurt, angry, and confused. After a few days, my sister convinced me to meet him somewhere public to talk. We met at a local coffee shop. He looked miserable. He began by apologizing profusely and explained the whole story. Dave and this man, whom I'll call Mark, grew up together. They were close friends but lost touch after high school. Mark reached out to him recently, telling him that he was in trouble. He said that he had been framed for a crime he didn't commit and needed a place to stay while figuring things out. Dave, having fond memories of their friendship, agreed to help without thinking it through. As he explained, I could see the sincerity in his eyes, but I couldn't help but be angry that he didn't trust me enough to tell me any of this. During our talk, Dave received a call from his lawyer who told him that the police were pressing charges against him for harboring a fugitive. He broke down in the coffee shop. I felt a mixture of anger and sadness despite everything. I didn't want to see him hurt. We decided it was best to seek counseling to try and work through this if we could. We also agreed that he would need a lawyer for his upcoming legal issues. Over the next few weeks, we attended counseling separately. It helped me process my feelings and realize that, although what he did was wrong and irresponsible, his intentions were not malicious. He was trying to help someone. Meanwhile, Dave discovered more about Mark's situation. It turned out that Mark was indeed being framed for embezzlement. Dave wanted to help prove Mark's innocence, But his lawyer advised against it, given his own legal troubles. Dave's court date arrived. I went with him for moral support. He pleaded guilty to harboring a fugitive and received community service, probation, and a fine. We were relieved it wasn't jail time. We continued counseling and started attending a few sessions together. We discussed trust, honesty, and the importance of communication. Our counselor advised us to work together to rebuild what was broken slowly. We both know this is just the beginning of a long road to recovery, but I feel like the fog is lifting and there might be hope for us. I still can't help but wonder if things would have been different if he had just talked to me about Mark from the beginning. But dwelling on the what ifs won't change what happened. We're focused on healing and rebuilding. Update 2. It's been a few more weeks since my last update, and I wanted to share the progress and some new developments with you all. After Dave's court date and our continued counseling, things seemed to be taking a turn for the better. Our communication started to improve, and I began to feel like we were on the same page for the first time in a long while. But life has a way of throwing curveballs. One evening, while we were having dinner at my sister's place, Dave got a call from Mark. Mark had been released on bail, and he had managed to gather evidence proving his innocence. He needed Dave's help to contact a lawyer who specialized in cases like his, as Dave had done extensive research while trying to help Mark earlier. I could see the eagerness in Dave's eyes. Before the whole incident, I would have supported him without hesitation, but now I felt anxious and uncertain. However, I didn't want my fears to hold him back from helping someone genuinely in need. I told him to do what he thought was right, but to keep me in the loop this time. Dave worked closely with Mark and the lawyer, keeping me updated on everything. Meanwhile, our counseling sessions were growing intense as we began to delve into deeper issues in our relationship. The counselor made us realize that Dave's impulsive decision to help Mark without consulting me was rooted in a pattern of him making big decisions without considering my feelings. This realization was tough for both of us, but especially for Dave, who seemed crushed by the weight of his actions. As days passed, Dave seemed more and more distracted. He spent hours helping Mark and seemed emotionally invested in his case. I tried to be supportive, but it started to take a toll on our relationship again. Finally, the day came when Mark's case was heard in court. Dave was a bundle of nerves. I decided to accompany him for moral support. The court session was intense, but thanks to the evidence and the lawyer's competence, Mark was acquitted. Dave and Mark shared a heartfelt moment outside the courtroom, and for a brief moment, I felt like everything was going to be okay. But life had one more twist in store for us. As we were leaving the courthouse, a journalist approached us. She was covering Mark's case and had discovered the story of Dave harboring Mark. She wanted to interview Dave about his experience. Dave declined politely, but this incident helped him realize how much his actions could have impacted not just our lives, but the lives of others involved. It was a wake-up call. We talked extensively that night. Dave expressed his guilt and remorse and told me that he wanted to be a better person, not just for me, but for himself. He said that he had decided to become more involved in community service, which was part of his sentence, and to consider it as a long-term commitment. As for me, I decided it was time to forgive but not forget. Our relationship has been through a roller coaster, and we both have changed in the process. We decided to take things slowly and to rebuild our relationship with stronger foundations of trust, communication, and consideration for each other's feelings. We're not sure what the future holds, but for now, we're taking it one day at a time. The road ahead is uncertain, but it's a road we have chosen to walk together. Update 3. A few months have passed since my last update, and boy, have things changed. I felt it was time to share the final chapter of this saga. Firstly, Dave and I moved back into our house. The place had initially felt tainted, but with time it began to feel like home again. We made some changes to the interior, creating a fresh start. Dave's community service was going well, and he was actively involved in a local charity. His passion and dedication to helping others was admirable, but it was also changing him. One day, Dave came home with exciting news. He had been offered a position to work full time with the charity organization. It was a fantastic opportunity, but it meant relocating to another state. He was torn. He didn't want to leave me, but felt it was something he needed to do. After a long heart-to-heart conversation, we decided it was best for him to take the job. It was a chance for him to start anew and really make a difference. But what did that mean for us? We agreed to try a long-distance relationship for a while, with the understanding that we would reassess things in 6 months. Dave moved and we kept in touch through calls and texts. However, as days turned into weeks and weeks into months, the distance began to affect our relationship. Our conversations became less frequent and more forced. During this time, I began to reevaluate my own life, and I realized I had put my dreams and ambitions on hold for my marriage. I decided to go back to school to pursue a master's degree in a field I was passionate about. 4 months into the long-distance relationship, Dave came to visit. We were both excited to see each other, but something was different. There was a distance between us that was more than just physical. We spent the weekend trying to reconnect, but it felt like we were trying to fit pieces from different puzzles together. On the last night of his visit, we sat down to talk. It was evident that we had both changed and grown in different directions. We had become two different people with different goals and dreams. After a tearful conversation, we decided to end our marriage. It was one of the hardest decisions I have ever had to make, but deep down I knew it was the right one. We began the process of separation, and although it was painful, there was also a sense of relief. We were free to pursue our dreams without holding each other back. Fast forward to now. Dave is thriving in his new job, making a difference in the lives of many. As for me, I'm halfway through my master's program and have never felt more fulfilled. But here's the twist, Reddit. Dave and I still talk. Our relationship didn't work as a marriage, but we're building a friendship. We're supporting each other in our new lives. I never imagined that the girl who discovered a fugitive in her guest bedroom would be where I am today. It's been a journey of self-discovery, pain, and ultimately growth. Dave and I had our flaws, but this experience taught us both so much about ourselves and each other. We didn't get the fairy tale ending, but in a way, we got something just as valuable. We got the chance to find ourselves and build the lives we always wanted, even if it's not together. Thank you, Reddit, for being a part of this wild ride. Your advice, kind words, and sometimes brutal honesty have been invaluable. Oh, wow, what a whirlwind of emotions. I must say, as I was reading through the updates, I was rooting for you and Dave to work things out. But life has its own plans, doesn't it? I commend you both for the maturity and understanding you showed in acknowledging that sometimes love is not enough. People change, and sometimes they grow apart. It's wonderful that you're supporting each other as friends. Also, big props to Dave for turning his life around and channeling his helpful nature into something positive. Good luck with your studies, OP. Keep that chin up. Sometimes the end of something is just the beginning of something even better. Next story. I, 32, female, have a husband, Mark, 34, male, and two adorable kids, Lily, 7, and Jake, 5. We live in a small house in a peaceful neighborhood. Life has been good to us recently, but it hasn't always been this way. You see, I have a brother, Alex, 36, who has been estranged from our family for almost 10 years. Our childhood was rocky with parents who weren't really there for us. This led Alex down a dangerous path. He got involved with drugs and began stealing to support his habit. He stole from our relatives, my parents, and even me. I remember coming home one day to find my jewelry box empty and my savings gone. Alex would always promise to change, but it never happened. As we grew older, I worked harder to make a life for myself. I went to college, got a job, married Mark, and we had our children. I cut ties with Alex after one too many broken promises. It was a hard decision, but I needed to protect my new family. My parents passed away, and the rest of the family also distanced themselves from Alex due to his behavior. Fast forward to last week. I received a call from an unknown number, and it was Alex. My heart dropped. He sounded desperate and said he'd been evicted from his apartment. He claimed he had nowhere else to go and asked if he could stay with us. He kept saying he had changed and he just needed a place to get back on his feet. Now, I have my family to think about. My kids know very little about Alex, and I built a safe environment for them. The thought of letting Alex into our home, not knowing if he's truly changed, scared me. I also didn't want my kids to get attached and then face heartbreak if things went south. I discussed this with Mark. He didn't experience the past with Alex, so he was more sympathetic. He suggested that maybe we could give him a chance. This led to an argument as I explained the severity of Alex's past actions and how they impacted me. In the end, I called Alex and told him he couldn't stay with us. However, I didn't just leave it at that. I told him I would help him find a place to stay, like a shelter, and if he needed help looking for a job or getting into a program, I'd help with that too. Mark is disappointed in me, and the kids overheard our argument. They don't understand why their uncle can't stay with us, and I don't know how to explain it to them. I just want to protect them. Update 1. After my last post, my husband Mark and I had a long talk. He apologized for initially pressuring me to let Alex stay with us. He said he hadn't realized how deep the issues with my brother were. He agreed that our primary responsibility is to our kids and their safety. Then, a couple of days later, my Aunt Carol called me. She said that Alex had reached out to her and other family members, telling them how I refused to help him and that he has changed. He made himself out to be a victim, which caused some family members to put pressure on me to let him in. I was frustrated, but took it as an opportunity to talk to the family as a whole. I organized a family meeting through a video call where I explained my reasons for not letting Alex live with us. I also informed them that I offered him help in finding a shelter and job resources. During this call, my cousin Jenny, who works as a social worker, offered to use her connections to find a program for Alex. We all agreed that it would be the best way to support him. So I called Alex and let him know about the resources and support available for him, and that I still wouldn't let him stay at my place. He was upset, but he agreed to take the help. 2 weeks later, Alex entered a shelter that helps individuals transition back into society. They offered counseling, job search assistance, and some classes. Now, the most difficult part for me was explaining the situation to Lily and Jake. They overheard Mark and me arguing and knew something was wrong. We sat them down and in simple terms explained that their uncle made some bad choices in the past and that he needs to work on making better choices before he can be around us. They were sad, but seemed to understand. In the meantime, Mark and I have been attending counseling to learn how to communicate better, especially during stressful situations like this. I've also been talking to a therapist about my past with Alex and working through these emotions. Something that hit me hard during this process was when my daughter Lily asked if Uncle Alex would ever get to visit. It broke my heart because I want them to know their family, but I also know the importance of protecting them. I feel like this experience has made me realize the importance of setting boundaries, but also the value in giving guidance instead of completely turning someone away. I know this is just the beginning, and only time will tell if Alex truly makes changes. However, for now, I am content with the decisions made, and I hope that I have not only protected my family, but also provided a path for my brother to rebuild his life. Update 2. First, let me talk about Alex. He's been in the shelter program for a few months now, and the change in him is astounding. He has been attending counseling, vocational classes, and has even started working part-time at a local convenience store. Jenny, my cousin, has been keeping tabs on him, and the feedback from the program is positive. They said he is dedicated and very focused on rebuilding his life. But here's the part that really got to me. Alex reached out to me, not for money, not for a place to stay, but to talk. He wanted to apologize. We met at a local park. I was nervous, to be honest, but seeing him thinner and more humble than I remembered broke down some of my defenses. He started by saying thank you for not letting him move in. He said that hitting rock bottom was what he needed. He apologized for everything, especially for the hurt he caused when we were younger. He cried. I cried. It was emotional. Now, while this was happening, Mark had been the most amazing support system. He's been understanding and encouraging throughout this journey. Our marriage has gotten stronger and the counseling has genuinely helped. Here's where things got a bit tricky. Our kids, Lily and Jake, started asking more questions about Uncle Alex. They overheard me telling Mark about meeting Alex and were curious. They wanted to meet him too. After some serious consideration and discussing with my therapist, I decided it would be okay for a supervised visit in a public place. We met Alex at the same park. Seeing him interacting with Lily and Jake was surreal. He was gentle and patient. The kids asked him questions and he answered honestly but age appropriately. They played, laughed, and had a great time. But during the visit, something unexpected happened. A lady approached Alex and started yelling at him. She was someone he knew from his past and was angry about some unresolved issues. I quickly gathered the kids and Mark stepped in to defuse the situation. Alex apologized and handled the situation maturely, but the incident reminded me of the past. When we got home, we talked to the kids about what happened. We explained that sometimes people get angry and that it's important to solve problems calmly. They seemed okay, but I could see they were confused. Now I'm questioning my decision. Was it too soon to introduce Alex to the kids? Have I jeopardized the safe environment I tried so hard to build for them? At this point, I'm still open to building a relationship with Alex, but setting clear boundaries. I also want to be cautious about how this affects my children. This whole experience has taught me that sometimes life isn't black and white. There are layers of emotions and consequences to every decision. I want to be compassionate, but also protective. Update 3. It's been about a year since my last update, and this will probably be my final update on this matter. So much has changed, and I feel like I've learned a lifetime of lessons in just this short span. First, let's talk about Alex. After the incident at the park, we didn't see him for a while. He called and apologized for what had happened. He explained that he's trying to distance himself from his old life, but sometimes the past catches up. I told him that I appreciate his effort and that he's always welcome in our lives, provided he continues to make positive changes. I also made it clear that the safety and well-being of my family are my priority. Alex continued to progress. He completed the program at the shelter, found a steady job, and even rented a small apartment. And then, a few months ago, he surprised us all by announcing that he's going back to school to become a counselor, focusing on helping individuals with backgrounds similar to his. I was floored. Now, onto my family. Mark and I have continued to strengthen our relationship. Our kids, Lily and Jake, have also been doing great. They occasionally ask about Uncle Alex, and we've kept them updated on his progress. We decided as a family that we should give Alex another chance, but this time we wanted to be better prepared. We spoke to a family counselor to guide us through the process. So a few weeks ago, we planned a family gathering at our home with close family members, including Alex. We had a barbecue, and it was one of the most heartwarming days I've had in years. Alex seemed genuinely happy and changed. He talked about his plans, his new life, and how grateful he was for the support. I took a moment to talk to him privately. I told him how proud I am of the changes he's made and that while our past will always be a part of us, it's what we do now that defines who we are. We both shed a few tears, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I had a real brother. After the family gathering, Lily and Jake were ecstatic. They felt like they got to know a part of the family they didn't know existed. They were proud of their Uncle Alex, and it was a teaching moment for them about redemption and change. Reflecting on everything, I realize that sometimes the toughest decisions we make are the ones that shape not just our lives, but the lives of those around us. By not allowing Alex to move in initially, we may have set him on the path he needed to rediscover himself. And by cautiously allowing him back into our lives, we've opened the doors for healing and new relationships for everyone involved. As for me, I've learned the value of forgiveness, boundaries, and the power of family, be it by blood or by choice. Your story touched my heart deeply. I believe in second chances, and it's incredible to see how your brother turned his life around. Sometimes, all someone needs is to know that someone else believes in them. By setting boundaries, but also showing him compassion and including him back into the family, you have probably played a significant role in his recovery. I can imagine how hard it must have been, and you're a testament to how someone can be firm yet caring. I hope your brother continues on his path and your family keeps growing stronger. This story shows the transformative power of love and understanding. Stay tuned for more stories from Our Girl Relationships.